House is a British organization. Our head office is in London. We are famous for training teachers all over the world. Yes, we've done it for more than 60 years. But today I would like to welcome, so many teachers from so many different places, from all over Mexico. Today we have teachers from Aguascalientes, welcome. From Guadalajara, we have a lot of people, welcome. We have teachers from Colima and even from Manzanillo, from Tepic. We have teachers from Cuernavaca, welcome everybody from Cuernavaca and Jutepec. We have teachers from Puebla, and then we have some teachers from beautiful Cancun and Cozumel, welcome Playa del Carmen as well. Welcome teachers from Veracruz, welcome teachers from Coatzacoalcos and from Tuxpan. We have teachers from Celaya, Morelia, Querétaro, San Juan del Rio. Welcome everybody. Pachuca, Toluca, Tampico, Matamoros, and then Acapulco, the most beautiful place in the world. Chilpancingo, Iguala, and then we also have Celaya, León, Guanajuato as well. Yep. We have teachers from San Luis Potosí, Culiacán, and of course people from Mexico City. Welcome everybody. And today I also want to welcome some visitors that we have from Peru, some visitors we have from Colombia, from our sister schools. Welcome everybody. Yes, it's a pleasure to have you here. And it's my turn to introduce you to a rock star. It's my turn to introduce you to a great member, a very important member of the International House University family. Yes, somebody who has worked at the International House for years and years and years and years, who is one of the most wonderful teacher trainers in the world. Yes, I would like to introduce you today, to our wonderful Ricardo Fajardo. Ricardo, it's great to have you here today. Yes,
thank you.
A huge audience, so it's a great responsibility. Everybody, welcome again to International House. Welcome to International House University. Yes, it's great to have you all here again. See you soon. All yours.
Thank you very much for such a very nice welcome, Ariel. Thank you, and thank you, everybody. Yes, let's make sure that this, you can actually see my screen. Fantastic. So welcome, everyone. So definitely we have a huge number of participants today. So the first thing that I have to say, guys, is thank you. Thank you for making the time to join us, and thank you for joining International House. Remember that International House is the best school, definitely. So it's an honor, actually, that you accompany me today in this incredible journey. And today we need to talk about a very important thing that I think, all of the teachers actually do in our lessons. In our lessons, we sometimes think about grammar and lexis and different things, but today we need to focus about, speaking, and speaking with a purpose. This is going to be a great adventure. So let us begin, guys. So because today we need to understand what speaking is all about, and we need to understand what scaffolding tasks is all about. So this will last about 45 minutes to an hour, and then you will have a chance to actually ask your questions at the very end of the session, guys. So bear with me, bear with us, and follow my ideas in here. All righty, guys. So let us start, and let's go stage by stage, because we have different teachers from different backgrounds and different levels of expertise. So I made sure that actually this presentation is also scaffolded. It goes from very easy to more complex information. So I'm sure that you will benefit greatly from it. Let us start. And first of all, we need to think about this, guys. So which are the 4 skills in English? So let's go stage by stage. So first of all, when we are talking about languages and we want to teach a language, we need to think about systems and skills. So let's focus on the skills. But we have 4 skills in English. At some point during my presentation, guys, yes, I will be making short pauses, like 5 seconds, just for you to think about this and for you to follow ideas more effectively. So think about this. Which are the 4 skills in English? Think about them. So, but basically, I mean, when we want to think about skills, first we need to divide these skills into 2 different types, because we need to actually understand, yes, what kind of skills we are referring to. So we have receptive skills and productive skills. Think about the words, right? receptive skills, and productive skills. What are they all about? So let's start. So basically, we have receptive skills of reading and listening, but why are these called receptive, right? Again, think about the term here. So we have reading and listening, and these are called receptive skills. Why are they called receptive skills, right? So they are called receptive as we receive information. So basically, we are actually maybe reading a text or listening to a text. So our senses, yes, are trying, yes, to decipher information that maybe we're looking at or we are listening to. So that's why these are receptive, right? I'm receiving all the information, I'm processing words, I'm processing images. So I am receiving a lot of input, right? So that's why they are called receptive skills. And obviously then we have productive skills, we have speaking, we have writing, and we can definitely assume we call this like that because we are now producing bits of language, right? As we speak or when we write in an L2, after we receive information, we process it, and then we can actually then transmit information via speaking or writing. Yes, maybe writing an email, maybe talking to somebody on the phone. Yes, now we are producing, yes, the language. So this is the first thing we have to understand. So the difference between receptive skills and productive skills, right? But let's now go a little bit deeper, little by little. Every skill, guys, can be broken down and they can be analyzed or developed in pieces. We call these mini pieces sub-skills or maybe micro skills, right? So let's think about this. For example, if you know how to drive, you have some micro skills in driving as well. So if you think you know how to drive, you need to know how to start your car, how to park, how to change gears, how to use the rear view mirrors. All of these are mini pieces of the greater and bigger skill of driving. The same happens in languages. Every skill that we mentioned before, receptive and productive, they can be broken down into different pieces. And it's important to understand these pieces because then we will understand how to prepare lessons more effectively, thinking about or focusing on very specific sub-skills. So for example, reading. Reading can be broken down into gist reading or general understanding. We look at a text and our eyes move very quickly through it. Oh, this text is about this. Scanning, looking for more specific information. Detail, inferring information, sometimes reading between the lines. We understand, for example, what the author meant or how the author felt when they actually wrote something. So all of these micro skills, when we collect them, when we put them together, then they create the big skill of reading. Just the same, so listening, again, can be broken down into gist again. We're listening to a conversation or listening to a commercial on TV, and we understand the main ideas. Again, we have detail, inferring. Sometimes we can identify how a speaker feels, or maybe we can also identify some pronunciation features. For example, some specific sounds, maybe how a person is stressing a particular sentence, so the meaning changes sometimes as well. Yes, so all of these are micro skills, sub skills of the big skill, listening. Then we move to writing. Then writing can be broken down into brainstorming, so thinking about ideas before we actually write them. Paragraphing, this is very important because we need to know if the piece of writing we are about to produce, yes, needs paragraphs. If it doesn't need paragraphs, maybe it's just a very big block of words. We need to know how to edit information. We need to know punctuation rules, spelling rules, layout, which is the general organization of a text. For example, in a letter, we can see the very famous hello, or dear sir or madam, introduction, body conclusion, and goodbye. So we also have elements of cohesion, which refers to the use of linking devices. When we are writing something, we need to link ideas effectively. So we need to use words like and, but, on the one hand, on the other hand, and so on and so forth. We also have the soft skill of coherence, which basically means that when we are writing something, ideas need to flow and they need to make sense. Usually when cohesion is worked effectively, coherence is there. So they usually work together. So again, all of these are micro skills of the big skill, writing. So it's important to work on these pieces of skills, guys, because some students might be very effective, very good at maybe some of these soft skills, but not at others. So we need to make sure that we give them information and practice of all the others, so they actually collect this and they can actually be more effective. But today we need to focus more on speaking. Now that we understand receptive skills, productive skills, and the concept, yes, of soft skills, I want you to think about this. So how is speaking broken down? Which are soft skills of speaking, you think? So we saw different soft skills of the others. Think about this for just 5 seconds. Give it a think. How can we break this down? All right, so let's take a look at this, guys, because it's quite important to understand how this is broken down to prepare, yes, speaking lessons more effectively. So speaking can be broken down into 3 main soft skills. And surprise, guys, yes, sometimes soft skills can even be subdivided or broken down in kind of, mini elements as well, right? But let's focus on the 3 most important soft skills of speaking. So we have accuracy. So this is speaking following the right rules of language. When we speak and we want to focus on accuracy, we want to use the correct tense, maybe want to use the correct features of pronunciation. Yes, I want to use pronunciation effectively. I want to stress my words effectively. I want to sound sad, maybe. Yes, I need to follow rules, the rules of the language. And sometimes we might actually focus a little bit too much on accuracy. So we also have the other 2, which are equally important. But we will see this later on. It depends on what you prioritize, yes, in your speaking lesson. So you might want to prioritize accuracy, which means using the right rules of the language. For example, if you want to practice storytelling, you want your students to use verbs in past, verbs in past perfect, past perfect continuous, and so on and so forth. You want your students to use narrative tenses effectively. So this is an example of accuracy when speaking. But we also have fluency. And this actually work together with accuracy, but this speaking, trying to speak at a natural speed. This is something important to understand because some people believe that being fluent is speaking fast. That's not quite true. Being fluent is just speaking at a natural speed, and all of us actually have a different natural speed when talking. Some of us maybe talk a little bit more slowly, some of us speak a little bit faster, but it should feel natural, all right? But it's also important to use maybe the right connectors so that the ideas that we say, yes, flow effectively. So this is fluency, and accuracy and fluency work together. Again, you might want to focus on fluency in your speaking lessons as well. And that means that basically for this to happen, you need to give your students a good number of opportunities for them to develop this, because usually the first time they've done something, they are a little bit shy. So they need at least 2, 3 times or more opportunities, yes, for them to develop this, because this is developed through boosting your confidence. You need to feel confident, you need to understand the task effectively, so your fluency naturally improves. And what's the other one? We have accuracy, we have fluency, and sometimes the third one is sometimes neglected or forgotten, and we again need to pay attention to it just equally. And this is appropriacy. And this is speaking, making sure that our speech is the correct one, depending on who we are talking to. So if you are talking to a friend, we are not very formal, are we? But I don't know, if you're speaking to your boss or a person, yes, that you definitely need to show respect to, yes, you change your wording, yes, accordingly. So appropriacy is very important. Sometimes we convey meaning effectively, but sometimes the words is maybe are not the right ones for the person we are talking to. So be careful with the choice of words, yes. Do not talk to everyone in the same way. You might actually get in trouble. So now we know those that were important. Let's go through them again. So we have accuracy, which is respecting the rules of the language, that is being correct when we talk, right? That's accuracy, thinking about the rules of pronunciation, the rules of grammar, and so on. Fluency, this has to do with our speed of delivery. When we talk, we want to actually talk at a very natural speed, not very fast, not very slowly, and try not to hesitate that much. I mean, we all hesitate. We sometimes are thinking for the right vocabulary, but we should not hesitate that much if we want to sound fluent in the language. And last but not least, remember, we have appropriacy, which is choosing the words correctly, depending on who we are talking to, who we are addressing. This is very important. Now that we know these three, we can start thinking about our speaking lessons. And now you start thinking, oh my God, maybe I have prioritized accuracy a little bit too much, or maybe I have prioritized a little bit too much fluency or appropriacy. We need to try and combine this for our speaking lessons to be effective. Okay, now we are kind of equipped with soft skills. Now we need to know how to organize such a lesson. So for learners to really benefit and develop speaking soft skills, they need to receive the right tools, right? So we need to think about now the structure of the lesson. Now we know the soft skills. Now I need to think about the scheme to follow, the framework to follow, so my speaking lessons are very effective. So we need to think about the appropriate stages for our lessons. Give it a think. I will give you just 5 seconds. Think about this. So tomorrow you have to do a speaking lesson. How would you structure such a lesson? Should I focus on the same stages as when I teach grammar? Should I think about the same stages as those when I teach reading or listening? I'm sure the answer in your head is no, because this is a totally different skill. Remember that we need to create a distinction in our heads between receptive and productive skills. So again, we need to think about the right stages for our lessons. And before we go there, this is a question that somebody asked me some time ago. Say like, hey, but can we just ask learners to speak and that's it? Can I not just arrive, yes, at the classroom and say, okay, guys, we have a speaking lesson today. You work in pairs or work in groups, and I want you to discuss the advantages and disadvantages of living in Mexico City or in any other major city. Bang, go for it. So can I not just do that? Give it a think. What usually happens, or what do you think happens if I just ask my students to speak and that's it? Is that the right way, you think? Maybe not. So as we were actually discussing, they cannot just speak because they will need the tools to do it, and they need the tools regarding accuracy, regarding fluency, and regarding pronunciation and appropriacy, right? So all of these elements are important. If you actually do this, if you just send your students to the battle, to war without the right weapons, they will have plenty of questions. There will be a lot of interruptions, and I'm sure that they will make potentially more mistakes easily, and they will ask for a lot of vocabulary. I have seen these lessons where they just start speaking and they start, teacher, how do you say this? How do you say that? And so on and so forth. So if we want our speaking lessons to actually flow effectively, then they need to have the tools. So please, let's try and avoid this. Yes, we cannot just send students to speak without the proper preparation. And this is where scaffolding is all about, guys. It's preparing students for effective tasks and for effective speaking procedures. So this is our suggested procedure. And when I say our, I mean, teachers around the world, yes, and teachers actually that want to benefit from speaking, and teachers who want to give students the right tools and the right opportunity to actually speak effectively. So we always need a leading, yes, and then we need the preparation stages, the speaking stages, and there should be some feedback as well. Let's go one by one. So the leading is very important because this is where we help learners to activate prior knowledge. If I want to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of living in Mexico City or any other major city in the world, well, first I need to help, yes, my students activate that area of knowledge in their brains. So I can use questions, right? Questions are very effective, yes, in leadings. So I can use questions like, do you like living in a city? Is it a good idea to live here? What do you think? What is your experience? So by asking questions, we help students activate however much they know. It could be little, it could be a lot, but this definitely helps them activate prior knowledge, which is very important. So that's a leading. And then how long should a leading be? Sometimes that's the question. Maybe just good 3 to 5 minutes. Again, it's just, yes, the vehicle through which they activate, yes, prior knowledge. Once you do your leading, this is one of the most important stages, and this is what scaffolding is all about, guys. This is where we provide learners with language tools. For example, functional language they need, grammar they need, pronunciation features expected as they speak. So again, do not send them to speak before you actually, yes, you give them the right tools, right? So the preparation stage is very important. And don't be afraid to invest good 10, 12 minutes here, because students need time to process information and to really digest all the information with regards language tools. So invest good minutes here. Yes, don't rush it. Don't just give them a list of words. They need to really understand what they need to use. So let's go back. So we need the leading. We need to activate, yes, the prior knowledge. Then when this is done, okay, they need some prepping. They need a preparation stage. They need to receive tools. And okay, it's time to speak. Yes, this is where learners actually speak, and we suggest they actually speak at least twice. So they need to do the speaking activity at least twice, if not more opportunities. And I mentioned this before. Why is this important? Because the more opportunities they have to do the same task, the more fluency they will develop. Yes, normally the first time they do an activity, they feel nervous, they are shy, they maybe did not understand, yes, the task very well, so they need to prepare more effectively. But if they do it a second time, a third time, definitely, yes, they will do it much better. So this is the thing, yeah. And obviously, later on, we have the feedback stage. And this is where learners receive feedback about what they say, but maybe more importantly, how they said it, right? And this is when we can play with stages a little bit. Let me come back to stages, to the list of stages. So we prepare them, yes, activating their prior knowledge, that's the leading. We give them appropriate vocabulary, that is the preparation stages. They speak, yes, once or twice, 3 times, and then they are given some feedback. And this is where maybe we can come back, yes, and play a little bit with the stages. That's also possible. It also depends on how long your lessons are. If you have a 45 to 60-minute lesson, you go through these 4 stages, and that's okay, that's enough. But if you have 2 hours, I mean, which is sometimes the case in many colleges, in many places, so you can actually play with the stages a little bit. After the speaking stage, you can give them feedback, and then you can provide more preparation. You can give them new tools, yes, or different tools, so they come back to the speaking stage, yes, in a more prepared fashion. Then you provide more feedback, and then this process can actually repeat as many times as you want. So again, it also depends on how long the lesson is, yes, but I think that the majority of us have lessons of at least 1 hour, so they can actually easily, yes, go through all the different stages, yes, that we are suggesting in here. So you can play with this, right? So let's have a quick sample here. Oh, there's a typo there. My apologies. So think about this. When did you last go on holidays? Think about that. Now that we are in this pandemic situation, I'm sure that you actually miss those opportunities. So I'm just activating prior knowledge in your head. When did you last go on holidays? Maybe 2-3 months ago, before the situation started, right? Think about it. And if you had the chance to go anywhere in the world, where would you like to go and why? And take a look at the airplane. And again, this is quite using our imagination, yes, because we cannot travel that much at the moment. But if you had the chance to go anywhere, like money is not an issue, like time is not an issue, think about at least 1 week. You have a week off and you could actually travel anywhere in the world. Where would you like to go and why? I will give you some seconds to think about it. So in my case, for example, I've always wanted to go to Asia, different Asian countries. I would like to go maybe to Thailand or maybe China. Why not? I need to know that country as well. Yes, I would like to go to Japan. So those cultures that, yes, are very interesting. So we're activating prior knowledge. Yes, this is our leading. But then we need some agreement or disagreement on opinion language, because now that I know which place I want to go to, guys, I would like you to talk together. This will be imaginary, of course. This is just an example. And you will have to tell your partner, yes, where you want to go. So your partner will have to agree or maybe disagree or maybe express their opinion. All right. But then again, I said before that you need to receive information about this. So maybe you don't know how to agree. Maybe you don't know how to disagree, or maybe you don't know how to give your opinion. Let's take some examples. So if you want to agree, you could say things like, I agree totally. Yes, going to London, going to Asia is definitely the best thing to do. You can also say things like, yes, that's right. Yeah, good idea. Excellent. Or things like, sure, yeah, that's a fantastic idea. But this is only the vocabulary, guys. When you are giving preparation to your students, make sure that you try and combine accuracy, fluency, and appropriacy. You will see that some of these options could be a little bit more formal or informal. Depending on the activity, you need to make sure that they understand this, because maybe they are talking to a friend. It could be a role play, so they can use things like, sure. But if they are talking to their bosses, they can say things like, yes, that's right. Okay, so you need to make sure that when you are giving students the right tools, they need to also see, yes, the difference in terms of how appropriate, yes, a piece of language is or otherwise. And also, not just appropriacy, but think about pronunciation features. Think about, yes, how you would say this. Is it just enough to say, I agree? No, I agree. So we need to sound like we definitely want to agree with the person. So again, when you provide the language, make sure that you provide the grammar, make sure that you provide pronunciation, and make sure that you provide appropriacy features. So these are some examples of agreement language. What was the other one? Disagreement. Which could be disagreement language? Just 2-3 seconds. Give it a think. Which could be language that my students could use to disagree with my ideas, to disagree with the country or the place I want to go to? Let's take a look at some examples. So we have things like, I don't agree, and that's very direct, and which is also a feature of appropriacy. If you use this one, make sure that your students understand that it might sound a little bit too rude. I don't agree. a better option if I want to sound more formal? I'm not sure I see it the same way. That's more appropriate. I'm disagreeing, but in a more polite fashion. How about the other one? What? Not really. Is that formal or informal, you think? So as you see, we need to provide our students with different options. And again, they need to see and understand the difference between one or the other in terms of appropriacy. Depending on who they are addressing, depending on who they are talking to, they need to use the right language. So we have agreement language, we have disagreement language, and now I need to provide my students with opinion language. How do I express, yes, or share my opinion? I also need language to do that. What do you think? Think of some ideas. Which could be opinion language? Let's take a look at some options. So, it could be things like, I think we should go to, or maybe why don't we go to, or how about going to? And then again, we need to think about the grammar behind these options. So do I use a verb in simple form, an ing? Take a look. I think we should go. Why don't we go? How about going? So if they use different options, so this is thinking about accuracy, students need to see how they are different, yes, in terms of grammar. So how about traveling to, or why don't we travel to? Okay, so these are aspects that you need to consider. Yes, and again, maybe we need to think about appropriacy option. Is one option more formal than the other? Maybe. I think we should. This is slightly more formal, yes, than how about going to? They need, again, to remember, yes, who they are addressing, who they are talking to. All right, so let's recap, guys. So I have provided agreement language. I have provided disagreement language. I have provided opinion language. And remember, it's also important to provide pronunciation features, some pronunciation rules to follow. And here we can use things like maybe intonation, something that we call attitudinal intonation. As the term suggests, so I need to share my attitude. I need to make sure that I'm actually conveying, yes, my mood and my attitude when I talk. So maybe I want to sound very direct. Maybe I want to sound nicer. So these are elements that my students need to know to actually use them more effectively. For example, let's come back here. So like, I don't agree. My voice is stronger because it matches, yes, the meaning of disagreeing, but at the same time, students need to understand it's too direct. As opposed to, I'm not sure I see it the same way. My voice is softer because I want the audience, or I want the person listening to me, yes, not feeling offended, right? So these are features that students also need to know, yes, when they are, yes, preparing for speaking. So it's not just the language, but basically is also, yes, pronunciation features. You can also focus on stress. Stress is also important. Yes, you might want to stress some words more than others, depending on the meaning that you want to convey. That's also relevant, right? You might want to stress one word more than the others. So, and obviously feedback, again, it's important because you need to inform learners. They have the right to know, I think, how they did. But this is very important. You need to also focus on content, the topic itself, and language. Sometimes when we provide our students, yes, with feedback, we might prioritize grammar a little bit too much. They need to have feedback about different aspects as well. Try not to actually focus too much or only on grammar, because if you do so, they might feel a little bit demotivated. Yes, they might feel like, I didn't do it effectively. I don't want to speak anymore. Provide some feedback on grammar, but not just on grammar. How about on the topic? You can say things like, yes, actually, the use of the language was great. Yes, you all talk about the same topic. That was fantastic. Yes, you did not deviate. You did not talk about something else. You focus entirely, yes, on, yes, the topic. So That's very important, because normally when we provide students, yes, with feedback on content, they feel more motivated, yes, and they want to do the task again. And again, you might want to focus on different areas on feedback, guys, yes, on different occasions. I don't know, maybe the first time you do speaking with them, maybe tomorrow you have a speaking activity, a speaking lesson, and maybe you want to focus only on grammar. Okay, that's a priority one day. But maybe the next time you might want to focus on fluency, and maybe not focusing too much on grammar, or not focusing on grammar at all. And then maybe the next lesson, you want to focus on appropriacy more than anything else. It's very difficult, actually, guys, for all students to focus on everything at the same time. So we need to give them opportunities to sometimes use these soft skills separately, because then when they have opportunities to put everything together, it will be better digested. So it's good to prioritize, and it's to give learners different opportunities, actually, yes, to focus on different areas at a time. Yes, we need to be patient. And again, it's part of a scaffolding. Scaffolding is about constructing, building little by little, block by block. Yeah, so try not to kind of expect everything, yes, in just one lesson. Prioritize areas and expect different things from your learners. But I think also, guys, that learners need to know what you are focusing on. If you're going to provide feedback on different areas, please make sure that you inform learners which areas you are going to focus on, because I think they have the right to know. Like, okay, guys, today we're going to talk about this, and today I'm going to focus on specifically how you pronounce verbs in simple past. So I will focus on these other areas, but mainly on, yes, verbs in simple past. So pay attention to that. So if students know, yes, it will be fair actually to focus on that. But if they don't know, and then we focus on this area a little bit too much without their knowing, yes, they might feel demotivated. So it's very important that when actually we provide feedback, they know the areas that you will provide feedback upon. This is very important. Please inform your students, yes, what kind of feedback they will receive and which areas they will receive feedback on. This is very important. All right, we have this now. So it's now thinking time. So obviously, guys, you work for different institutions, and maybe you teach primary school, or maybe you teach secondary school, or maybe university. So we have very different context. So this is a good question for you guys. So do you think this framework can be adapted to any level? Can I use this framework? Can I use the leading, preparation, speaking, feedback framework with kids, with adults? What do you think? Actually, this is a very good question. Yes, and I think it's doable. Obviously, what changes is the language that they will use and the level of complexity, the level of difficulty of the task itself. But you can actually, the beauty of this framework is that it's so flexible and it's so easy to use. So I think that you can actually use this framework, yes, in any different, yes, context in which you are teaching, guys. All right, so let's think about this final question. So now we have information about the framework. Yes, we have information about skills and soft skills. So obviously all of us are in different moments in our teaching careers. So today, what was the most meaningful piece of information that you take from this session? What item, yes, was the most relevant for you? Okay, because this is very important. Maybe you knew some of these aspects, but now we need to integrate information or new information, yes, into our repertoire. So did you know about soft skills? Was it useful to know about soft skills? Did you know the framework? Was it useful to know the framework at all? Yes, did you know about the different, yes, options in terms of the language? Did you know that you have to prepare your students in terms of language? So these are very nice questions to think about. So I will repeat the two questions, give it a think, because then later on, when we have the question and answer opportunity, you might want to answer this as well, and you might want to ask other questions to me. So let's take a look at the questions again. So do you think this framework is applicable, is usable in any level, in any context? Can I use it in university? Can I use it in my primary school? And then the next thing, what was the most meaningful piece of information that I take from this session? What was the most relevant piece? Start thinking about it, because in some minutes later on, we will have our question and answer session, and I will be more than happy actually to discuss this with you, right? So we come actually to the end of this short presentation, and I really hope that it was very, very useful for you. So thank you very much for your kind attention. I don't want to do this very, very long, because the idea is to give you, yes, short ideas, but effective ideas. Yes, and again, the idea was to also scaffold this presentation, yes, because that's the idea of a scaffolding, preparing. Remember, the main idea of a scaffolding is building block by block, not going directly to, yes, a topic, but actually breaking this down into different pieces and then connecting all of them effectively for the benefit of the learners. So for now, thank you very much for your kind attention. Yes,
Okay.
and I will be actually talking to you in some minutes, yes, later on. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you very much, Ricardo. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Yes. Thank you. You are a rock star, and we're very pleased and very honored to have you as one of our trainers. I'm sure we all learned some great ideas to use in the classroom, so please don't go. We'll come back for the Q&A session a bit later on. And don't worry, guys, we'll be sharing both the recording, and we will be sending attendance certificates to you. So I just wanted to make sure that you can hear me well. Ricardo, can you hear me? Yes? Okay. So hi, everyone. My name is Alejandra, and it's a pleasure to see you all here at our webinar series. As you know, we're part of a big community of 160 schools in more than 50 countries around the world. We've been part of teachers' lives since 1953, helping more than 5,800 language teachers achieve their goals and improve their skills. I bet that some of you are part of our IH family, or we hope that you will be. So with all these experience as our background, today, we're really thrilled to announce the launch of our very own International House University. So yeah, we have a university now. It's the first university designed for language teachers that takes into account your experience and the need to maximize your time. So at International House University, we have designed various programs and certifications, from graduates and postgraduate programs to continuous professional development, all of them aiming at helping you achieve an extraordinary future. Just to give you a taste, and I talked about these yesterday, but I just love this program, and I think it's great, and that you will adore this program. We have our online Licenciatura Ejecutiva, which will help you get your professional degree in just 1 year. So I talked to you about that yesterday. But we have many different programs. At the very beginning, I saw in the comments, we have teachers of English, Spanish, and French. And we have a wonderful program, which is part of our continuous programs, which is a program to help you teach Spanish. Es el Diplomado Internacional en la Enseñanza del Español. And it's about 140 hours long, but it's such an amazing program that whenever we want to recruit teachers to teach Spanish, there are none of them. They're all working abroad. They're working in Dubai, Turkey, Moscow, Europe, some of them in the US. Most of our teachers, when they get the certificate, they start working abroad. So it's an amazing program that you can have a look at. Our future is bright, but also has many challenges, and we should be ready for them. So we hope to welcome you soon to our great educational community. Your local IH advisor is available to provide any information you need, but check our website. you can see all the information about our programs. It's ihmexico.com/IH University. www.ihmexico.com/IH University. So before we come back with Orlando in the Q&A sessions, I'd like to show you a testimonial. I know it's an amazing program. You'll love it. So we're going to show you a testimonial of this Diplomado de la Enseñanza Internacional del Español. Orlando, back to you.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay, fantastic. So I think, yeah, if you could just mute the microphone so I can play the testimonial, right? So I'm going to share, guys. So I'm going to share, like Alejandro said, you know, I think we know we help people, you know, make so many of the dreams come true. And one of those dreams that, you know, we're helping people make true, you know, is being an ambassador, you know, of Spanish also around the world, you know, while they teach English as well. So I'm just going to share one of those fabulous testimonials. I think it's amazing what we're doing, you know, at the university. So let me just share that with you. And if you could just confirm in the chat box if you can hear the sound, right? Because I think that's one of the best things about testimonials, right? So listening to what people have to say. So there you go.
No tengo palabras para agradecerle de veras el apoyo que nos han brindado.
He aprendido muchas cosas que yo desconocía.
Estoy muy contenta, muy satisfecha, muy feliz.
Tienen un conocimiento que inspira.
Esto está genial. Esto es muy divertido.
Mi principal motivo fue por aprender algo nuevo.
Me gusta mucho viajar y entonces una de mis intenciones sería ser maestra de español para extranjeros.
Quería ampliar mi formación porque estoy estudiando la licenciatura en lenguas, pero en inglés.
Bueno, a mí lo que me motivó es el poder desarrollar un trabajo en otro país.
Quiero vivir un rato en el extranjero y una de las formas en las que lo puedo hacer es pues, a través de esto, ¿no? De dar clases de español.
Lo que aprendí, ay Dios, ¿qué no aprendí? Aprendí muchísimas cosas de ustedes.
Cómo trabajar en equipo para transmitir todos los objetivos que se tienen que llevar a cabo en una clase.
Que tienes que mantenerte aprendiendo.
Son muchísimas cosas, creo que aprendes de todos los involucrados, de tus compañeros, de los maestros, aprendes de ti mismo, puedes ver las áreas de oportunidad que tienes.
Lo más importante que aprendes en este curso es el valor y la riqueza de tu lengua materna.
Todos los aspectos que se tienen que tomar en cuenta, desde el aspecto personal, desde el tono de voz, de cómo dirigirte con el alumno.
Si me preguntan qué ha sido lo más importante que he aprendido o estoy aprendiendo, yo les diría todo. Pues yo la calificaría con 5 estrellitas.
5 estrellas, excelente servicio. Mis maestras son pros, así, masters, cracks, como le quieran llamar.
Fueron muchas horas, pero se me pasaron súper rápido. La mejor experiencia, la verdad.
¿Cómo califico la experiencia? Pues súper enriquecedora. O sea, la verdad, aprendes muchísimas cosas.
Es el arranque para muchísimas cosas que se pueden hacer.
Gracias, House.
Les agradezco mucho también sus apoyos y sus palabras y todas las sonrisas que hemos tenido y buenos tiempos. Gracias.
I thought that was amazing, Alejandro. I thought it's definitely I don't know what to say. I thought it was an excellent example of you know, the many wonderful dreams that, you know, we're helping people make come true, and with all the different things.
That's our mission. Our mission is to change lives, right? Guys. And if we're not doing that through our courses, then we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Right. Do you want to talk about this specific program, maybe? You know, we haven't, I think we haven't devoted some time to this, and I think because how inspirational the video was, I thought it would be nice to talk about that, you know.
We get those kind of testimonials every time that course finishes. And I think that I don't want to talk too much about this because it ruins the testimonial. It's what it is. People just love it. And every time I ask them, we don't realize how rich a language is. Spanish is the third most spoken language. We're language teachers. So we teach you English and Spanish, but Spanish is a super rich language. And there are many jobs abroad for us Mexicans. So guys, go to our website, www.iacmexico.com/IH University.
That's right. Thank you very much, Alejandra. And so again, guys, I just copy pasted the link. It's right there in the chat box. This program that we just show you testimonial of is our international diploma, our diploma internacional en la enseñanza del español como lengua extranjera. And I would just like to briefly say, as you all, I know that you all, are English teachers here, and that's how you join this webinar, right? But this is yet again, one more option, and just like you saw in the testimonials, there are so many people that are teaching abroad, are teaching also now under the new normalidad, are also teaching from the comfort of their house, and they are teaching 2 languages, right? So they are teaching English, they are teaching Spanish. Once the pandemic is over, these people will come back to the classrooms. We have people that are teaching in different countries, people that have traveled and moved to countries, in Europe, the States, in Canada also. I think there was quite an important increase, in need of teachers, teaching Spanish also in Canada and different places in Europe, and it's yet again one more way to make yourself, be even more competitive, in the increasingly competitive market, right? So not only are you teaching English, but you're teaching our mother tongue, which is, I think, Spanish is one of the greatest mother tongues in the world, and it's definitely, the need for Spanish is also increasing, worldwide. So, anyway, so just go to our website, ihmexico.com, IH University. I think we have a course starting very soon, in 2 weeks from now. So again, just email us and we'll be happy to help, right? And I think now it will be time back to you, Ricardo. Is that okay? Back to you with questions and answers. There were several questions. There were people asking all sorts of questions in the Q&As. Also, people are very interested in knowing more about what you did, and the scaffolding of speaking happens in an online environment. And I think there were also some people that were craving desperately for an example of giving everything away, of course, but we don't want to disappoint them either, right? So is that okay? Towards 6 p.m. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay. You were breaking a bit, so yes, but I think I got the idea. Thank you. Yeah, sure. Let me share my screen, guys. Obviously, I mean, the idea, guys, was first of all to make sure that we understood, yes, the stages, yes. But obviously, now that our current situation is pushing us to doing all of this online, you might be wondering, like, yeah, Ricardo, but I mean, wonderful information, but to begin with, I mean, how do I prepare my students for the leading, for example? Let me share my screen here very quickly, guys. Hopefully you will be looking at screen. Orlando, can you tell me if they can see my screen? Or somebody?
Yeah.
Okay, great, excellent. Right. So for example, guys, imagine that I want to talk about, yes, a condition called hypochondria. So I can actually share this. I can share my screen as I am doing right now, and I can prepare a very quick activity like this ones. So I could say things like, I will pretend you are my students, guys, and I will give instructions. Yeah, so okay, guys, so here we have some pictures. And let's take a look at the pictures together. So how do you define a hypochondriac? Look at the picture. Oh my God, I mean, is the person feeling okay? And on the right side, how about a cyberchondriac? Yes, so obviously in an online environment, we need to make sure that these tools that we provide are visually effective. Yes, and these are things that we can create very, very quickly. And once you give instructions, once students actually have this visual support about a task, this could be, for example, a leading activity. Yes, talking about hypochondriac people. What we could do is then to share the link, yes, and then they can actually, yes, do the same task. So let's do that. I mean, imagine that obviously you're working with me. I will just send the link. Yes, you don't have to do the activity, don't worry, but just make sure that actually you can see the activity, because that's what your students will actually see, and then they can actually have this material. And normally in a face-to-face environment, we use copies and we just get everything printed. But in this case, the beauty of working online is that we don't get to have, we don't need to have anything printed, yes? So we just send links. That's the beautiful thing of working online. So for example, I would share the link of this activity, and this is what normally your students will receive. So I'm going to have it in the chat box. Let me make sure that I send it to everyone. Yes, all participants. And there you see, yes, the link, guys. So by sending, yes, students the link, and I see that many people are joining. Yes, I see a good number of people joining the thing, so they will be able to follow you. You can then share your screen again and actually do this, yes, speaking activity together with them. You can nominate students and you can say, hey, for example, yes, Patty, yes, what do you think, yes, a hypochondriac is? And they are looking, yes, at the pictures, and they are working with you at the same time. And then you might think, okay, like, yeah, but how do I do that? Yes, there are many tools online that we can actually utilize and exploit, guys. This is something that is called Google Jamboard, and it's very, very visual, which is very important in an online environment, guys. Yes, I will just stop sharing. I will just exemplify this, and I will just, in 1 minute, I will explain how you do this. All right, so you can actually start exploiting, yes, materials online, in this case for speaking purposes, but this can be easily adapted to any other types of lesson. Okay, let me stop sharing there. And I will now share another screen to actually show you how to do this, yes, in your free time. And it will take literally less than 5 minutes to create, yes, your own materials. So let me go here. Hopefully you are looking at my screen. If you have Google Drive, teachers, yes, fellow teachers, you simply have to go to your Google Drive and you click on New here, and you will actually see a number of options. You go to More, and then here you have more options, and at the very bottom, almost at the bottom, you have Google Jamboard. So let's create one together in the next seconds. So you go here to Jamboard, and this is the way that it will look. So obviously we have nothing there. So the first thing to do is give it a title. Maybe this is your leading activity. So leading, okay. And I usually use a background color because white is not the best option. Yeah, so maybe, yes, blue. And then something beautiful here is that you can start creating. Yes, you can maybe have a sticky note. You can see this on the left side of the screen. And you can actually write whatever. So maybe, how are you? This is for maybe a basic level. How are you today? Yes, and you save it, and so on and so forth. So you're gonna have like 20 questions, and maybe that's actually the activity. They need to introduce, yes, each other. That's the activity. So how are you? Maybe how old are you? And so on and so forth. So you can have as many questions as you want. You can distribute those here. And it's as easy as that. And you can also insert images if you want to. Underneath the sticky notes, you have add image. So you can actually add image from your computer or from Google as well. Once you do it, yes, this is very important. It's a very important step. Yes, teachers, you click here on share, top right side, share, and you need to make sure that you change the restrictions here. So at the very bottom, it reads restricted, and then you see change to anyone with a link. And then you need to make sure that you also make sure that students can edit if you want them to edit, or if you just want them to see, viewer is fine. But if you want them to interact with the activity, then you actually have editor. And once that is ready, you copy the link, and then this is the link that you send to your students. So this is a quick example of how we can do very, very quickly and very effectively an activity for speaking purposes. Then you will send the link to your students, and voila, they begin to speak. I hope that makes sense. I come back to you, Orlando.
And sorry, fantastic. An old favorite, unmuting the microphone. Fantastic. All right, fantastic. So, okay, so we're getting a couple of questions. So, we have a couple of questions in the Q's and A's, Ricardo. We could maybe go over those. Do you have the Q's and A's?
Yeah.
Because there were several questions. There were like 16 questions. So, how about we go over those, and then I don't know, we could take it from there. Is that okay?
That's okay.
Fantastic. So Alondra is asking, how can we do this if the students are not motivated enough? Like if they don't want to participate, what do you do?
Okay, well, in terms of motivation, that varies from group to group, Orlando, and everyone. But I mean, obviously, every single teacher knows their students more or less. So in terms of motivation, I think that my top rule or my top piece of advice is making sure that topics that you use for speaking are topics that your students like. Because sometimes, I mean, when we are preparing our lessons, yes, it's like, oh, I like movies, but that's a teacher. But do you know if your students like movies? Maybe they don't like movies, and that's why they are not motivated. So it's very important to think about the choice of task and the choice of topic. Another thing that you can use to motivate them is that you can personalize activities. And what do I mean by personalizing? Sometimes when we want to prepare materials, we use any names. So we know like John Smith. Who is John Smith? And your students would like to see their own names in the activities. So if they see their names, they might feel more motivated actually to participate. So these are my two, general tips and kind of standard tips. So make sure that topics are topics that they really like. If it's children, obviously they like Disney characters. They like movies that are for children. So make sure that, yes, the material and the task are appropriate, yes, to your students. And number two, make sure that you are personalizing. So make sure that they feel it's their own task. So this would be I would say the two top tips for motivation.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you, Ricardo. I think that motivation through personalization and simply producing materials, and tasks that are relevant to your learners' needs, right? And of course, we have several people here as well that are preschool teachers, people that are teaching young learners. And in that case, just like Carmen is saying, it should be based on the student profiles, right, Carmen? Like likes, dislikes, age, level, gender, needs, and of course those needs might be different from group to group in relation to the age level. So also think about what kind of things your young learners would be able to enjoy, they would like to see in the classroom. So maybe, for example, if you're doing a speaking task, for example, I've done before, and I actually had fun myself, guys, with storytelling, right? So there's an awful lot of things that you could do for speaking with storytelling, right? So the Red Riding Hood, and you get the kids, to role play, like one is the wolf and the other one is Little Red Riding Hood, and or the grandmother, right? And just like Ricardo was saying, with young learners, scaffolding might take might take a different shape. It's just scaffolding, but it's a different way of scaffolding. So for example, things like one way of scaffolding is like asking the learners, what do you think Little Red Riding Hood might say? What do you think the wolf might say? Then you provide them with maybe the characters, and you have mini dialogues, right? Maybe the wolf is gonna say this, Little Red Riding Hood is gonna say that, and there could be like 10 minutes of you getting the young learners to role play Little Red Riding Hood and the wolf, and the grandmother, right? So that's precisely what Carmen is saying, right? Like if you don't do that, then you won't be getting your learners' attention, right? So there's plenty of things that we could do with storytelling. If you're interested in knowing more about things that we could do for preschoolers with storytelling, for different ages, we could maybe run a series of webinars. I think somebody here was asking on, let me just say, yeah, I think it was you, Nadia. Was it you, Nadia? She was asking about webinars about the 4 skills with examples and tips for online classes. So we could do a webinar on all of those, right? Debates, Antonietta, is also, yes, debates. Again, it depends on how you treat the debates in relation to learners level, right? Ricardo, I know you asked a question. I would just like to go over the other questions, right? Because Ricardo Lagunes is asking something on recording speaking test. So we'll come back to that in a second, Ricardo. Okay, so Ricardo, we also have another question from Marcela. Marcela is asking, she has many learners. She has 30 students in class. And then she's saying she can't ask all of the students during a 50-minute class. So how should she do that? Like, should she ask people randomly or ask people to participate? Just, I mean, how should she encourage people to, you know, in a large class? I think that's a question, right? And especially the shy ones.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, the larger the group, yes, the more difficulties we encounter, teachers, yes, I know that. Yes, and unfortunately, I mean, the larger the group, also we can, in a way, personalize a little bit less, but still, I think that's something that we could do is actually to create groups as opposed to pairs, because I mean, obviously, kind of the bigger the groups in this case, like maybe 6 to 8 participants, it's easier to monitor. If we create pairs, for example, so one of the aspects that we need to consider is interaction patterns. So we need to consider like grouping students in a particular way, that we have maybe also strong learners and weak learners in each of the groups, because we can actually give our strong learners kind of some mini roles. They can help, yes, the weak learners as well. They can motivate them, and they can actually be, yes, the role models. They can actually be the first example to speak, and then the others will do the same. And this is very important, because if students actually get to see you just breathing behind their necks all the time, they might actually be even shyer. So, but if another peer, if another learner is just contributing to that, yes, is kind to helping with the language, yes, and motivating their peers, they might feel more motivated to so doing. So I think that interaction patterns is very important, and giving students, yes, some roles, I think that they will be more effective. Of course, the teacher is responsible for monitoring, yes, for assessment purposes, but it's okay actually to give some students some of those roles, yes, and this role can actually be moving. So maybe one day, yes, Orlando is the monitor today, but maybe Ricardo is the monitor tomorrow. So they actually feel kind of more engaged in the activity. And yes, I mean, it's kind of complicated. And in terms of feedback, that's going to be another complication. So which is why I was suggesting that we need to prioritize. We cannot, yes, try and provide a lot of feedback. Maybe we can focus just on main ideas. If they participated, we can also just give feedback in terms of behavior on participation, because again, this is going to be motivational for your students. They are going to boost, yes, their need actually, and their want to do it again. So that's the main suggestion here, Orlando.
Yeah, no, I agree. And so I'll concur with you on that point. And also, you know, referring to Alondra's point, you know, Alondra, for example, and this is a point that several people were asking, you know, I'm going through the questions, and, you know, people were asking about how this takes place, right, in an online environment, you know, like Zoom classes, right? Like Ingrid was referring to this. Nayeli was also, Huerta was also referring to this, and Alondra is making a point on breakout rooms. This is something that we explored, you know, in you know, another webinar that we had with Rosie, and, you know, we talked about how useful, you know, breakout rooms, now that everybody is taking the teaching online, you know, how useful breakout rooms are. And so coming back to your point, Ricardo, you know, it's with breakout rooms, you know, there are so many things that you can do, right? So if you haven't experienced breakout rooms, you know, I advise you to do that, you know, create an account, you know, invite your friends over, you know, for a beer or something, and see how much you can do in breakout rooms, you know. So in breakout rooms, you can have people work, like Ricardo was saying, in pairs, groups of 3, groups of 4. You can have, up to like whatever number of people you can have in a breakout room. And what you'll have to do is, what like Ricardo showed you, is you'll have to scaffold the speaking task before you send people to the breakout rooms, because once they get into the breakout rooms, then you can pretty much like let them be, right? So you can go ahead, let them be in the breakout room with you monitoring or not, like Ricardo is saying, depending on what you want to achieve through the activity. But the idea is you can manage the speaking in groups according to their needs of the class. So for example, Ingrid was talking about how you carry out speaking classes depending on the number of students, right? So if you're in a one-to-one class, then it's going to be you facilitating the speaking through Zoom, right? So maybe you give the learners examples of language, maybe, for example, one way of scaffolding is showing a video. So if I were teaching, maybe, I don't know, for example, Cambridge examinations, right? There are some of you that are preparing people for Cambridge main field exams. So you know that there is an interview and there's a speaking task they have to do. So maybe you could even show a video of what the learner has to do first, an example, then you take samples of language from the video, and then you let the learner do the task, right? So just kind of like preparation through the video, and then they do the task. That may be one-to-one, maybe one-to-one also Ingrid was referring to the context of business classes. If you're teaching an executive, how to give, like a presentation to the board, you can also do that, like maybe show an example, or maybe you do it first, they see how you do it, then you take samples of language, and then they do it, right? In a one-to-one setting, that would be what you're doing, right? In a larger class, then you prep them on first. But then the other thing is, what you could do is when you send them to breakout rooms, you could give them links to useful samples or to useful activities or to useful language, on Google Docs, maybe on Google Slides, maybe also on YouTube. You give them the link, and then in the groups, they can prep themselves individually, and then they can do any kind of speaking task in the breakout rooms, right? And then you can bring them back to the main room, and either you could give feedback or they could do the activity to, for everybody, so that then also people can see different examples of how different groups did the activity, right? And of course, this depends on how much time you have, right? Laura, for example, is describing a lovely activity. I think she's played Guess Who? And also, their learners, her learners have found it very, very attractive, right? And that's the other thing that you could do. If you go to chat box, you'll see Laura's description on the idea with switching off their cameras, right? And it's quite an interesting way to take a game to the online environment, right? Another game that you could do with your young learners is charades. I don't know if you play that. How do you, what do you call that, charades in Spanish, Ricardo? What do you call that? I always forget the word. Charades. It's like when you have like, guess the film. Mímica, dígalo con mímica, caras y gestos. That's right. Thank you, caras y gestos. Right? Sorry, I always forget the word. And we play this in breakout rooms before, and it's so funny because then like you have like the judge is a teacher, and then you have people go to different breakout rooms, and then you give them each in the chat box privately to one of the learners. You give them like the name of a film or a song or something, and then it's very funny because they have to do it, of course, with the camera switched on, but because they are at home, they can use all sorts of different resources. So like, for example, if you, I don't know, como agua para chocolate, right? And they could go to they could take the camera with them to the kitchen, and they try to like boil the chocolate, and like pour milk and like the water and then the container in the kitchen. And and it's such a fun experience, right? Yeah, I'm enjoying it. And it's such a funny activity. It's such much fun. Also, because what happens is when you do that, sometimes the family comes in, right? So sometimes it's not just that one learner, but suddenly it kind of becomes a family experience, right? And that's when you get the parents involved. That's when you get the little brother involved. That's when you get the father involved. And he also sends an incredible message. The message is the online environment also allows for being creative with your classes outside the classroom environment, and also get the family involved in that, right? So I think there are so many things that you could do online, guys. Uh, I don't know, I'm trying to think about the games, but back to the question, sorry, I got distracted. There are also, Ricardo Lagones is, okay, go to your question now, Ricardo Lagones. Ricardo is asking, the first question is, how effective could it be to have students record their voices for a speaking task? So this is kind of like recording their voices, or maybe on Zoom, they can also record themselves, or they can record video on YouTube, you know, if they have access to a YouTube account. So Ricardo, after you. Yeah, thank you, Orlando. Yes, this is absolutely effective. I think that is the best way to keep some evidence of what students are doing, and actually is evidence for them to see how they are making progress. You mentioned, for example, different contexts, Orlando. You mentioned, for example, in the context of exams, that would be a wonderful idea, because maybe the first time they have done the one-to-one, yes, interaction, they felt a little bit nervous, but then by analyzing the video together, it's actually easier to identify features that can be improved easily. Yeah, because obviously our memory might not be the best, like, oh, do you remember when you said this? Or do you remember when you did that? They will not remember, but obviously by watching the video, yes, it's easier to identify strengths and obviously areas that they can improve. So yeah, definitely using the video is so exploitable. And obviously those samples that are really strong can be utilized and exploited for new learners. And it's actually a learner doing the same task, again, as opposed to the teacher. So that contributes also to motivating other students and to see that actually, yes, whatever they are being expected to do is doable, is achievable. So I consider that's a great idea. Yes, I think that definitely videoing, yes, activities is definitely evidence. Yes, and a very good visual and auditory support for other learners, Orlando. Totally. And you know, when it comes to, like you say, you know, with videos, right, recording, you know, there's always, especially with kids, you know, there are always issues of confidentiality, of course, right? Because, you know, they are little kids, you know, they are young learners, and there are always issues with like who is going to have access to the video, right? So if you do choose to have your learners record themselves, it would be a good idea to choose, you know, a platform that allows for confidentiality. So I'm just going to quickly show you one, guys. So for example, I'm going to share my screen. So I cannot show it. You can see it right now, I think. I cannot use it because, like you see, the camera is already used. But this is a useful website. It's like webcamera.io, and you know, it's a useful website because the only thing that you need as a learner to use this is just basically like steady, you know, connection and a webcam, you know, and a microphone, which is basically what, you know, everybody now has if they are taking class online. When you go to YouTube is great, but you first have to set an account, and you know, it takes a bit more of planning and technical skills. But with this one, I'm gonna copy paste the link in the chat. But with this one, basically you can do a number of things. You know, you could just video record it, and once you video record it, it will send a confidential link, which you know, allows people, whoever you send it to have access to that. It's not like YouTube where you know, it's automatically kind of like published, you know, by default on either a public setting or a hidden setting. Even with hidden settings, sometimes if you know a little bit about technology, you can still see it, like it would still be there, right? So hidden on YouTube means it's hidden to people that don't have access to the link, but then it's still there on a cloud, and there could be issues with confidentiality. This one allows for secure settings. Basically, nobody who has that link and you allow to watch it is able to watch it, right? So it's slightly more confidential, but it's also easier to maneuver. So something that you could ask your learners to do is like maybe, for example, what they could do is you could send people to breakout rooms. They are going to switch off their camera maybe in the breakout room, but what they could do is they could record how they do the activity from the comfort of the house, and then they could send the video immediately after, right? So it's for free. It's something that you could also use for flipped learning, if maybe you're going to send projects to your kids or to your learners, adults or young learners, and you're going to have them maybe, I say, tell the story, maybe like you give them a character again, like Little Red Riding Hood or maybe the wolf, and they have to like create a 2-minute video, sorry, for maybe a project, and you're going to assess that. They could create that and they just send you the link, right? So it's also quite a useful tool. The other more complex things that you could do is you could create animated text animation, so many things, but that's a bit beyond maybe some some of the expectations on our learners, but it's a useful tool, right? So I'm just going to let me just there we go, send this, useful, but it helps a lot, right? And also Ricardo is asking about how important is it to ask them to self-correct, Ricardo?
Yeah, I mean, that's quite important, and I'm going to link that to what you just explained. I think that by looking at the video, we can actually promote self-correction, because normally, I mean, sometimes we don't have, number one, we don't have, or maybe we don't have the time to correct every single learner, because sometimes we have big groups, as some teachers were actually expressing. Yeah, so I think that it's important to promote this, but I would use a combination of peer correction. So if they use things like videoing, maybe you can actually also provide students with kind of simple rubrics to follow. Yes, and they can actually peer correct, or they can self-correct with the use of the video. So I'm just linking and connecting what you just said, Orlando, and with the previous question. Yeah, because that could be another important feature, or how to exploit videos actually to provide opportunities for self-correction. So maybe sending even a video, the teacher sending a video to the student, like correcting, and maybe by then doing it again, students actually can then produce a new video, and then they can actually improve the same task, and they will be self-correcting and improving, yes, on the same task. So definitely that's really, really important. I think that the less teacher center, yes, the lessons are, the better. We always need to I think always need to give students an opportunity to self-correct or peer correct, at least, before we actually go as intruders, yes, and try and correct everything. So definitely one to go and one to do all the time, Orlando.
Yeah, and that's a point that Maria Cristina was also asking, and making a point of, she was saying, high schools, can they give feedback to the classmates? I think they definitely can, right? And I think the only thing we need to be careful with is providing a rubric, right? So like criteria for them to give feedback to each other.
Yeah, that would be important. But and I think that in terms of criteria, Orlando, I think that, yes, it needs to be very simple. And again, it also depends on the ages, yes, and the level of the students. It could be like just 2 points or 3 points to assess, because obviously students should not be fully responsible to formally assess their peers, but they can participate, and they can maybe assess things like, was the idea clear? Yes. Was the story entertaining? Yes. And they are assessing content already. In terms of the language, yes, depending on the level, they can participate as well, but maybe that's a little bit more of the responsible of the teacher. But it's always important to get students involved in their own improvement, progress, Orlando. I think you froze, Orlando. Yeah.
Yeah, I froze,
Okay.
but back. Sorry. Yeah, no, definitely. So I think, I don't know, I think those were like most of the points and questions. I think so. Is there anything that maybe we haven't covered from the questions, Ricardo?
I think we covered most of them. I think it's obviously very difficult to actually analyze everything in detail, but I mean, I think that the important message today, guys, was that not only in speaking, but we can actually transfer the idea of a scaffolding to any other skill. We can also scaffold writing activities. So basically the idea of today was preparing our students to do tasks more effectively, because sometimes we are expecting a little bit too much from our learners, but we are not providing them with the necessary tools or sufficient tools for them to do more effectively. So the idea is there, guys. So it's just a matter of kind of using and adapting this idea to all the different tasks that they do in their classes.
Totally. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Well, so thank you very much, Ricardo. I think you know, people have found it extremely useful. Guys, did you find it useful? Was it a good webinar today? Today we too many notes, I think you can say. We wanted to devote a bit more time, you know, to the quick Q&A section, because we've realized, you know, you have loads of really good questions, and so, you know, it's always nice to you know, to spend time with you guys. So remember that, again, don't go, you know, just two kind reminders. So again, you know, people that are interested in doing something now, you know, during these pandemic times, you know, remember that the pandemic, you know, has brought like a completely new reality, right? And one of those realities is, you know, like what do I do? You know, what do I do from the comfort of my house, right? And so one of the things that people are doing, you know, is just, you know, keep developing and taking their teaching practice further. So just a kind reminder, 2 minutes, you know, because we keep receiving applications and we just need to make sure that we have a place for people on the courses. So we have 2 courses coming up, you know, very soon. The semi-intensive, you know, CELTA 6 weeks. That's just around the corner, guys. That's on Monday. And then we also have one which is part-time on July 27th. If you don't have an IH consultant assigned, I think some people are saying that in the chat box that they don't have one. Please email me. You already have my email. I'll give you a kind reminder at the end. Just email me and I'll be super happy to you know, assign you one, and maybe like have a virtual drink with you at some point, or maybe face to face when you finish the course. And also we have another course. Yeah, we also have an important discount, right? 50% is 15% discount, and we also have an especialización on young learners, which is July 13th, and you get to teach adults, kids and adolescents, right? So this is coming up also around the corner, Monday. And finally, remember that we have more webinars. Today we have the pleasure of, I had the pleasure of questioning Ricardo, you know, of transferring your questions to Ricardo. And Ricardo, you know, was, I think, super happy to help you guys today. People were also asking in the chat if you're coming back. Are you coming back, Ricardo?
Absolutely, it will be my pleasure. Keep inviting me and I will be here. I mean, I suppose at some point you will have enough of me, but I will never have enough of you, teacher. So of course I will be here.
Fantastic. Guys, if you do like Ricardo, and Ricardo will be very happy to come back, remember that we're going to send you a feedback form. We would truly appreciate it if you could answer the feedback form, because the feedback form helps us grow and helps us improve these webinars. I think this is the first time we are kind of like doing this in a very systematic way, and we'll keep doing this simply because, again, we're using this as an excuse to be in touch with you, our community, and also, you know, simply as an excuse to have fun with you guys. So I think people want to have fun, you know, under these global pandemic circumstances. I definitely know I do. Anyway, so The feedback form, you're getting the feedback form. There should be an email coming from us, Alondra, from our database. We are sending this form. If you registered for the Zoom webinar, we'll be sending that. If it's next week, Monday, and you haven't received the form, please email me. Again, I'm going to write my email. So ttmx, sorry, slow typer. ttmx@ihmexico, and I'll send you the form myself personally if you haven't received it by Monday. When you submit the form, you'll also be receiving the recording to the webinar, right? So if you didn't, if you couldn't be here for the first 10 minutes or 5 minutes, or you simply want to go back and watch all of those fun moments that were in the webinar, you can have the recording available. And also in the forum, we're asking you very specific questions like, did you enjoy it? Did you like the facilitator? Did you like the speaker? Did we spend just enough time? Would you like to have webinars that are longer? Would you like to have webinars that are shorter? So those webinars will definitely help us grow. There is a section at the end of the forum that reads which other topics you would like to get a webinar on. That's where we would like to see all of those wonderful ideas. Like today, Janelle, she has recommended a webinar on a particular skill. I think that's a great idea. We also have a suggestion for topics on preschoolers. That's another great idea. We need a couple of weeks to prepare for those webinars. So the sooner we get your input, the sooner we'll be able to prepare for those, right? And now we're just coming on to that, Mariana. Mariana is asking about sharing the links for the next webinars. We have two more next week. We have one more for Wednesday, and then we have one more for Thursday, right? So I'm gonna share those right now. Let me just go to those links. So I'm gonna share it here in the chat box. Sorry, it's one of the things that sometimes you have too many things happening on the screen. Okay, so there you go. So I'm gonna send you the first one, guys. So this is for the one on Thursday. So there you go. So this is the one on Thursday. That's one on teaching writing, and then you have the one for next Thursday. For next Thursday, you'll happen to be with me, guys. So I'll try to be as serious as I can be, because I'm never too serious, I guess. So and that's the other one, right? So so join. It's those two. Join, register now. And if you have registered already, don't worry, we haven't sent the link, Brenda, don't worry. We'll be sending the link next week, maybe Monday, Tuesday, okay? Yeah, I'm always smiling and laughing because I'm on happy asteroids. So will you send it by email? What will I send by email, Nayel? The form or the link? Sorry, let me just, the link we'll be sending, yeah, the link, we'll be sending this in an email. Yeah, the link, Monday or Tuesday, right? If you haven't received that by Wednesday, email me and I'll be super happy to help, right? So thank you guys. It's been lovely having you today. And remember, tune in under these precious, global times. We need support. We need help, and we just simply want to be part of the community, right? Also, stay tuned, because maybe in August we'll be launching an official podcast, and I'll have guest speakers, tuning in and doing a mini 30-minute program, maybe every other day. It would be great, and we could also have people from our IH community joining, and as opposed to just having you on mute for 1 hour and a half, we'll have fun with you online, right? So thank you guys. Lovely to see you again. And again, enjoy the weekend, and goodbye. Okay, so great to see you, and goodbye. See you Wednesday. Okay, stay tuned. Thank you. Bye-bye.